Hey, what's up guys? It's Elias. Just wanted to bring you today a video about being strong in BJJ and does size really matter? So, and give you some thoughts, and I'm sure you guys will kind of give me some of your thoughts in the comments and different things like that. Whether you're bigger, and when I say bigger, that doesn't necessarily mean in height. I just mean like in weight is mainly what I'm talking about, because I'm not too tall. I'm only 5'6", but I weigh 215 pounds. So before we get into that, make sure you subscribe to my video. Make sure you like the video when you get a chance, and let's dive into it. So let's talk about the first thing, which is apologizing for being a bigger grappler. Like I remember when I started in jiu-jitsu, when I was a white belt, and even in blue belts, actually every belt, when I would train with lighter guys, I can remember the saying was always like, man, you're so strong, or you're so heavy. And when you roll with someone like who's your size or like lighter than you, it just, I know it's sometimes if you're heavier, you can sometimes look at that as a positive and say, yeah, I know I'm strong, I work out and those type of, but I always took it as like a slight, because I just thought to myself, like, whenever I roll with someone, I try to always give them, like, if they're able to give good pressure and able to, you know, if they can pass my legs or if they move well or different things like that, regardless whether they submit me or not, I always try to mention to them, like, man, great technique. And, you know, on top of that technique, you know, you have great athleticism, great power. What a great combination, right? And I used to feel more like when they used to tell me those things, it was usually because I got like a good position on them during rolling, or I was able to submit them, whether they were in the same belt rank as me or higher belt rank. So I always considered it like as a slight. Like when we'd get done rolling after, like, you know, depending on 6, 7, 8 minutes, and you shake hands afterwards, and they'd say, man, you know, you're so strong, or you're so heavy. And instead of saying, man, great technique, you know, you got me in a really good submission, they used to say it that way. And it always felt, and by the way, it wasn't everyone that would say that when I came up rolling. A lot of times it was the guys who I think, like, when I first started, used to maybe have an advantage over me, of course, right? And then as I started to grow technically, I started to maybe in some guys' cases surpass them technically, and then I've always had power. And so it just always seemed like it was those type of guys that would say those things. And I remember I used to apologize a lot about my size or my weight. I'd be like, when they'd say that, I'd be like, oh man, sorry, I know I'm a little heavier than you, or different things like that. And when I made this video, I thought, like, I think bigger guys or stronger guys should stop apologizing for our size and our weight. I mean, there's some exceptions. Like if I'm rolling with a girl who's, you know, typically smaller than me, or if I'm rolling with a really small, you know, either, you know, really small, like rooster weight, then in those cases, I sometimes will start off with like saying, hey, sorry, I know I'm a little heavier. And when I roll with them, I try to compensate for being so much heavier than them when I roll by trying to use more technique. But it's still like, I think we shouldn't have to apologize for our size. And, you know, it's something that I've thought about before. I think, you know, that's kind of my thought on that. And I think, like, going into, like, diving into it deeper and, like, understanding why is it, like, considered, like, when you're a bigger guy, like a negative thing, or why is it sometimes kind of used as a negative connotation when somebody talks about you being bigger, is because, you know, jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu especially, has the perception of the smaller guy being able to beat the bigger guy, right? Like back in the past, it was always, you know, you hear about the smaller guy, you know, being able to take on a bigger guy, being able to beat them, being able to, you know, submit them, or whatever the case. A lot of times, even in nowadays videos, you see girls who you see, when all things are equal, being able to submit a bully who doesn't have any, when I say girls, like young girls, submitting a bully like in school or something like that, because they know Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so I think perceptually speaking, it's always been like, even when I started Jiu-Jitsu, I remember one of the ways not back in the day, but even to this day, one of the things I use to describe Jiu-Jitsu is like the smaller guy having a chance against a bigger, stronger person, or the smaller woman having a chance against a bigger, stronger opponent or attacker. And that's true, especially when it's against an attacker who's bigger, but that doesn't know any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But those things change when you have someone who's an attacker or an opponent who's bigger, but also knows Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So it's, you know, it definitely, I think, the perception has always been Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is something that is made for a smaller person. But there's a ton of huge guys. Like most absolute champions in tournaments are heavy guys. Actually, all of them are. I think the lightest weight absolute champion that I can remember, at least since I started jiu-jitsu in 2007, there might be some before me, but it was Romulo Bahal. Actually, Romulo never won the absolute division. He lost it 3 different times against Roger Gracie, who was heavier. But to me, him and I want to say Andre Galvao as well are 2 of the only guys who were medium heavyweight who got to either the finals, semifinals, got really close to winning the absolute division. But other than that, everyone who's won the absolute division has always been bigger. Roger Gracie over 220. When he won it, you got, of course, Buchecha, who's well over 220, who won it. Everyone, Bernardo Faria. I guess maybe the one exception is Leandro Lo. Although I think when he won it, he was really heavy. But when he would compete, he would compete a lot at medium heavyweight or below. I think he's even competed at middle and lightweight in the past. So usually, the bigger you are, and you have good technique, the better your jiu-jitsu can be, right? So, just my thoughts. I always think that you should, in the beginning, focus on your technique, because when you first start jiu-jitsu, you want to make sure that you focus on technique, because if you don't, you're gonna learn jiu-jitsu. It's not magic, but if you focus only on what you have genetically when you come in, like power and athleticism, and I know this is hard to say, like if you have good attribute or like great athletic attributes, to come in and say, hey, ignore those, come into jiu-jitsu and just focus on technique no matter the situation. That's like, it's really tough to do. Our egos and pride make that really tough to do. But if you can really swallow your ego at the doorstep of your academy when you walk in, if you're a bigger, stronger person, and try to focus on learning as much technique as you can from day one, then it's just going to help you achieve a better game in jiu-jitsu sooner. Because if you have a lot of athleticism and strength, and when you come and use that to begin, you're not going to not learn jiu-jitsu when you've been training 5, 6, and many more years. You're going to learn jiu-jitsu eventually, but it's going to take longer. You're going to have a longer learning curve. So I'm not saying like being bigger and stronger is an excuse to not be technical, but I do think when you're bigger and stronger, you have some parts that were given to you as far as genetically that are going to help you just as a whole have a better chance to be better in jiu-jitsu. I mean, there's no other way to say it. Like, what other way can you say that, right? If you have someone who's bigger, they're gonna usually be, if they learn the technique, better than somebody who's of a lighter weight. So that's, again, my thought. Like, your power is going to always be there. So try not to, when like I say this a lot at my academy, try not to, like, your power is never going to leave you. Like, you can get stronger. You can work out at the gym to complement your jiu-jitsu. You can get stronger, but your power is not going anywhere. So save that. Like, always have it on the back burner, but focus on technique, and then use add the power later when you start to become better technically. And when you combine the two, like the guy that I've always been the most awed by in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competition is Buchecha, Marcus Almeida. Because when he first came in, he was so big and he moved so fluently, so technical in his movements. Wherever his body was, it always seems like he had a direction. And on top of that, he was 225, 230 pounds, moving like a 130 pounder. So it's great. Like, in the beginning, I know we want to use that power, but and use it, but wait till you build that technique and combine them, right? And then, when you're bigger and stronger, you have a responsibility as well, right? Because, I mean, there is some exceptions. When you go with like a lighter person, or like in my case, like if you go with girls who are typically smaller or way less than I do, then in those cases, you do want to maybe use less strength, use less strength. And when you go with someone lighter, you want to use less strength because you have a bigger responsibility, right? Along with you being bigger, you have a bigger responsibility on your shoulders to try to not hurt somebody. So, being bigger is like, you have a ton of different things, right? It's a good thing because if you learn the technique, you're gonna usually, if you're, all things equal, gonna be more, I would say, in most cases, I hate to use the word superior, but for a lack of a better description, you're going to be more superior in your jiu-jitsu, but you're also going to have, being bigger and stronger and more technical, a bigger responsibility than someone who's lighter, because you have the ability, because of your size, to hurt somebody easier. So you also have a responsibility to make sure you take care of your partner, make sure if you're with someone lighter, you roll differently. Like when I roll with someone lighter, it always feels like I'm doing like a plank for the whole time, because I try to focus on not putting my weight. But I just wanted to just do a quick video about size in BJJ. Does it matter? Is it a big deal? I think it's a huge deal. And, if you're bigger and you're strong, try not to apologize for your strength. I'm not saying be a douche. Still be a nice person, but don't apologize. Like, I know me personally, like, I don't apologize for being big and strong anymore. If people say that to me, no problem. Let it be what they want to say, but I don't apologize for it, because it's genetics. It's who I am. It's how God made me. Like, why would I apologize for that? If anything, it's been a blessing and a benefit for me to be bigger and stronger. And then also, I believe I was able to really focus on technique coming up in jiu-jitsu. So combined with my strength, all the things I told you, it's been a great thing for me. So let's stop apologizing for being bigger and stronger or heavier than our opponent, and try to just keep growing in jiu-jitsu. Don't worry about your size. And does size really matter? Absolutely. If you're bigger and stronger, you have an opportunity to be a beast in Brazilian jiu-jitsu. That's all I'll say. Maybe the nice way of saying it. So until next time, check out my videos. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. I'm going to just keep throwing some subjects out there. If you guys have some subjects or some thoughts or comments about, is being bigger in jiu-jitsu a good thing? Does size really matter? I'd be curious to hear about it. Whether you're a lighter guy, again, I'm 215, so if you're somebody lighter than me, be curious to hear what your take is on it. So that's it, man. Hope you guys enjoy the video. Talk to you next time.